Hey, what's happening? Episode 67. We finally made it to 67. That's the big number that everyone reaches, right? That's the one that everyone wants to get to is 67.
Yeah.
That's two more.
Specifically.
That's two more before 69, if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, my name is Shane.
And I'm Nico.
And we are very happy and excited to have the man that basically is the reason why we're libertarian, or at least we lean towards that way. So apologies to everyone, but if you want to like send your hate mail to the reason why we're libertarian, send it to Dave Smith, the great Dave Smith.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because you've been calling everyone else great, so we might as well call you great now. Because that's such a bad word nowadays.
I put a lot of thought into it before I call anybody great. It's and I mean it. And anybody I call great, that means I agree with everything they've ever said. So right. I appreciate that endorsement of me.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so, obviously with all this Wuhan virus or coronavirus or whatever you want to call it, because there was a thing that just came out apparently, or I don't know if it was yesterday or whenever Bill Maher's show comes out, but he was saying that calling that Chinese virus is like, why is everyone getting all upset about this? It's from China. So what's wrong with calling it a Chinese virus? So I don't know if you saw that or not, but he said
I did.
Yeah.
I actually just watched it earlier today, and I know that because of that video by Bill Maher, I'm sure both of you have been experiencing a ton of racism, and I'm sorry. I think it's wrong. That's part of the reason why I'm on the show. I wanted to let everybody know that I only hold you two half responsible for all of this.
Oh, thanks. It's an internal battle every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like if people blame you guys, they're also blaming your non-Asian side. And that just seems wrong.
Yeah. So, thanks, Dad. And for what was it? Because that's the whole reason we started the whole YouTube channel. Was the Arhapas and all that stuff saying the white man is, or our white fathers are suppressing our Asian moms or whatever by, making babies, I guess is how they suppress them or whatever.
That's how you take control of someone's race, I guess.
Right.
Yes. It's horrible.
I know. So, yeah, apologies to everyone for us, half, I guess, as you said earlier.
Yeah, half causing the virus.
But and we're not even Chinese, but all Asians look alike.
You're splitting hairs at this point.
Isn't that what Chris Tucker said in Russia? I all look alike. Anyway, but yeah, so we wanted to have you on because you've been blasting a ton of episodes because it took a virus for you to start making all this shit. Because I mean. Everyone's been hounding you. When are you gonna make bonus episodes? And then you're like, okay, finally with this dang coronavirus, I'll finally do it.
Well, I'm trapped with my in-laws, so it's either hang out with them or record more episodes. So I guess that's what it took to finally get me in. I am kidding. I really love my in-laws.
Right.
They're great. But I figured, what else am I gonna do now? I might as well record a lot. So and it's also like kind of the most interesting thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
So it seems like I was like, well, I want to talk to a lot of smart people and try to figure out what's going on here.
Well, I'm sorry that you're speaking with us right now.
I know, right?
Yeah, and then every now and then it's nice to take a break, So,
right. Like Bob Murphy, Scott Horton, Micah Mouse. I'll talk to those two, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's strange times that we're living in, as Joe Rogan's special is called Strange Times. I mean, and it's specifically strange times right now because, we live in Texas, and I know you live up in New York, but you're not in New York at the moment. But it's just crazy how some states are kind of taking it a different approach with it, like with Governor Abbott here. I heard something that he's possibly going to reopen businesses, I think next week or so, or at least I don't know if it's like 100%, but it's like something that's kind of been floating around that he's going to try and do that. But of course, with like New York and New Jersey, they're, no, we're not doing that. I don't know. We're going to do this until however long it takes, whatever. Because also when all this was starting, and then towards the middle, I think it was like March or whatever, Trump had the smart idea to be like, this will all be done by, or I hope all this will be done by Easter.
Oh, yeah.
And then,
that didn't happen.
And then now it's maybe May 1st we'll do this. It's just like, why did you even say a date in the first place? Because you're giving everyone this false hope and all that stuff. I don't know. What was your whole take in terms of like how Trump and his administration has handled this, and at a federal level, I should say?
Well, I mean, I think they've done a very poor job. just kind of objectively for it to say where we are now. They were very, I mean, if you're talking about the whole federal apparatus, I suppose Trump can't be held responsible for all of it, but they were downplaying it from the very beginning. And basically saying they didn't, this was just the flu. It wasn't going to be a big deal. That Fauci guy was downplaying it too. He was saying this isn't going to have a big impact on America. And now we're at a situation where they say, actually, this has to bring the entire country to a standstill. I mean, something that, the British Empire, the Nazis, the Soviet Union, Al-Qaeda, something none of them could do. This virus is that bad that we need to bring the entire, non-essential economy to a screeching halt. So if you start by saying it's not that big of a threat and then go there, it's hard to say that you didn't kind of mess up. Mm-hmm. That being said, the people who are bashing Donald Trump for not acting sooner, if Donald Trump had tried to take steps like this back in January, we all know they all would have been calling him a fascist and, like he's out of control and shutting everything down. So he probably, as most people have come to understand, can't win with most of the people who hate him.
I know you tweeted that.
Yeah, the thing I don't understand is now people are bashing him for not being more fascist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. It's like, what do you want?
It's so funny.
Especially since they've been calling him a fascist for the last 3 years.
The fascist, I really think, from the people who have been calling Donald Trump a fascist, is just a word for bad person. I don't think there's really any connection to actual fascism. That's why they'd be like, you're a fascist and you should round up the guns. Things that just really don't make sense. I think democracy just means good and fascism means bad. And that's about the extent of the thought that's put into it. But in some sense, Trump is a fascist, or he is presiding over a fascist government. So was Obama. So was Bush. I mean, it's hard not to call what we have a partnership between corporations and the state. And they're pretty brutal about it. I mean, look around. Like, they're pretty. Did you see that video of that guy in Philly being dragged off the bus for the crime of not wearing a mask, which, by the way, up until 2 weeks ago, were the CDC guidelines.
Yeah.
They were telling people not to wear masks from the start of this whole thing. So just like that, on a flip of a dime, the government goes, actually do wear masks. And now cops are dragging people by their feet off of a bus. I saw one of a dad who got arrested for having a catch with his daughter in the park. There's a lot of like pretty authoritarian shit going on. And it's really unbelievable how quickly people accepted it. However bad this virus is it? I mean, like, it'd be hard to imagine a month and a half ago, this being normal. And now it seems like the Karens of the world are cheering it on.
Yeah. And it's kind of troubling to see a lot of people who I know personally, like in my personal life, just being like, oh yeah, that seems okay. Like, we just have to do what we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a dangerous precedent to set.
Yeah, that recent episode they did with Scott Horton when he was talking about that survey that from the Atlantic, I believe it was, and we were looking at it too because I know you tweeted about it too, but it was kind of, I guess not strange, but and also not surprising, I guess, but also I don't know what the right word is, but it was just interesting and crazy, just how it didn't matter what political side you were on in terms of, or party it was, like Republican, Democrat, or whatever. It was, totally banned non-citizens and citizens coming from back to the country, whether you're visiting from another country, you're coming back, nope, not allowed, or detaining people in government facilities because they might have the coronavirus. And there was another one, like forcing workers to work more than they should or something like that. It's just like, this is crazy what's going on. And they're willing to take their liberties and their freedoms away, to be safe. It's kind of like that whole, would you rather have liberty or safety, or freedom or safety, basically. And it seems like safety's winning.
Oh, yeah. Well, safety's been winning for a long time. But man, when people get scared of a virus, it's unbelievable how quickly any pretense of believing in liberty goes out the window for the vast majority of people. And it's just, it's unbelievable to watch. And especially when the government, like, so many things have come out of this. And like, one is the obvious government failures. Then it's the obvious government plundering of everybody in this moment to like bail out banks and big corporations and all of this. And then the fact that even for all of this, no one has any coherent plan. Like none of that, like you were talking about before, like, oh, if we opened Easter, or if we opened May 1st, or maybe if we open, May 31st, or like whatever it is, why isn't this thing just going to spread around again? And then did we do all of this for nothing? Do we put 30 million people out of work for trying to not overwhelm our hospitals for a month? It's just no one really seems to have a good answer. And I think that once the government's dug in this much and they've taken such drastic steps, now they're in a position where they can't admit that they were wrong to do this if they were. So they couldn't go, if it came out now, like what was the IHME just lowered their projections to like 60,000 people are going to die. I mean, let's say they lowered it again, hypothetically, they lowered it again to 30,000 or something like that. Which they started at 200 and they're down to 60. So it's not that crazy. They could go down to 30. At any point, could any government official go, yeah, we overreacted. We probably shouldn't have done this. Of course they can't say that because 30 million people are out of work. So they have to justify it. And so now no one has an exit strategy. It's just like, it's like a little war in Iraq here in America where we did this big thing. It kind of seems like maybe it was crazy. But we better surge, because what are we going to do? Just say, oops, sorry. And maybe at some point, looking back at it, people will be like, oh, all those guys are wrong. And they'll still be running for president.
Well, you see how other countries and how their governments have been handling this, especially with Asian countries, like with the mask thing that you were mentioning before, someone being dragged off a bus because they didn't have a mask. And then the CDC, like you were saying, 2 weeks before, no mask. But now a mask is like mandatory or whatever, or at least it's suggested you should wear one.
Well, the thing about that was they were saying that the police were saying like it's suggested that they wear a mask, but then they changed it to mandatory, but didn't tell the public.
Well, also too, there was that cop that was saying wear a mask, but he wasn't wearing a mask.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're going to at least say you should wear a mask, shouldn't you at the very least, because you're supposed to be this protect and serve, whatever, shouldn't you at very least showcase what,
that you're wearing a mask?
Yeah, not only that, but just showcase that you're, I don't know, being an example, I guess, because you're trying to lead this example, especially for like young people. Hey, we're supposed to protect you and save you and all this stuff. Well, if you're doing that, then wear a mask and say, hey, you should wear a mask too or something. Not just, yeah, I think you guys should wear a mask. Well, what about you, sir? You're not wearing a mask. You're not wearing any gloves.
Well, yeah, of course, I agree with you. But also, more than just setting an example, if it's the law, it's the law. Now,
Right.
So are you just above the law now? I mean, like, we have a law against murder, and cops aren't supposed to be allowed to just go murder people. If this is the law, why? And if it's the law for safety reasons, then cops should have to wear them as much as anybody else. And there's, just a million examples of these things where, the government is just, they are by their very nature above the law.
No, it's like what is it? What was it? What was the thing that you said? It was like a mafia organization. What was it, like masking itself as a
human rights
organization?
Yeah.
I screwed that whole thing up. Of course,
it's okay.
What were you saying about how Asian countries are handling this though with the masks?
Well, it's like their culture. Even if they feel even remotely sick, they'll wear a mask because that's just how it is. No one goes, "Why are you wearing a mask? What's wrong with you? What are you, weirdo?" And also there's some, I don't know if it was in Asian countries or just here in America, but how they say if you don't wear a mask, you can't come into this business because
that was in Korea.
Yeah. Okay. But it's just interesting to see how different countries have reacted to this. And then what was the other country that they didn't even do anything? Was it like Sweden or something like that?
Sweden didn't do anything. They are seeing a higher death rate though.
Right, but the case numbers weren't that high though. In terms of American case numbers.
Well, but there's more people here, so
right. Probably. Well, that's true. But I don't know. It's just interesting to see how everyone's reacting. It's either you freak out and say it's the end of the world, or it's a hoax, or it's fake. You can't see it, so there's no enemy. I don't know what you're talking about. That whole thing.
Yeah, I've been annoyed by people on both ends of that, and I think that. Certainly people who are saying that this is a hoax or there is no virus, I think are just wrong and not dealing with the facts on the ground or the situation. I don't believe that all of these virologists are making this up, and I don't think there's any evidence that this was like some, Bill Gates conspiracy or something like that. But also on the other side, what's much more dominant is this thing where like you're not allowed to compare it to the flu. You're not allowed to downplay it at all. You're not allowed to suggest that maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And now people feel like they're being good, loyal patriots by saying, you know, we should extend this thing and just and people have no, it seems like, appreciation for how many lives are going to be ruined if we continue this shutdown. Like, and that's happening right now. So it's frustrating on both sides, but very few people seem to want to deal with the nuance of both of those and say, okay, yes, there is a really nasty virus going around, but let's try to really understand what it is. And I mean, as the numbers are coming out now, it seems like for a lot of people, like possibly even the majority, but it could be like 50%. We don't really know. But for a lot of people, they just won't have any symptoms if they get this. They're not going to get sick from getting this virus. And it seems like the overwhelming majority, like somewhere between 80 and 95% of the people who die from this are people who had underlying conditions. Yeah. So people who were sick or old or diabetic or, you know, stuff like that. And then everybody focuses on the one case of like a healthy person dying from it. And it just doesn't seem to be like, how is that helpful? I mean, I saw so I was watching the nightly news the other, last night, I guess ABC or maybe NBC, I can't remember. But you know, so basically what's happened, if you're actually looking at the what's going on with the virus, like I said, the IHME, they lowered their projections down to 60,000 deaths, which is like, you know, is terrible, but it's like a nasty flu season. Like that's how many deaths you get about in like a bad flu. You know, sometimes it's less than that, but in a bad one, it could be around 60,000 deaths. And New York, it does look like the epicenter, New York, that it's that we've reached the apex because hospitalizations are going down. Now, what they'll keep telling you is that the death rate is going up, but of course, these are people dying who have been hospitalized for 3 weeks now. So this is, you know, the rate of new hospital admissions is going down. None of the medical systems have been overwhelmed so far. So there's actually a lot of positive news there. But what does the nightly news start with? It's like bum ba dum 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 over 100,000 deaths. You know, like that's where because this is what keeps you glued to the screen. So everything is just tragedy, tragedy, tragedy. This is what's happening, and it's scaring the shit out of a lot of people. Where there really is all this positive news that you could be telling them, and so the whole thing is kind of maddening.
Do you feel that, because I've heard from some people who are pretty optimistic about this, that once the economy is, or well, businesses are allowed to be open again, that the economy will bounce back. Do you think that that's likely to happen, or do you think this is going to destroy the economy?
Well, I don't think it will destroy the economy in the sense that there will be an economy there. I mean, like, I don't think that we have progressed very, very far from, like, you know, the Stone Age to where we are today. It's not, and a lot of this isn't just going to go away. A lot of it is just about the labor saving devices that we have and the knowledge that people have in their heads and the warehouses and production and trucking and all of these things. They're all still going to be there. So it's not that like we're going to be living in some, we won't be living in 1929 because we have all the advancements from 1929 that are still going to be there. So the economy will bounce back in a sense, but what does that look like in reality? And in the same way that you could say, oh, the economy bounced back after 2008, but yet we see the whole culture falling apart. We see Donald Trump getting elected. We see populism left and right from, like the political landscape in America has gone from like, the white nationalist right-wingers to the left-wing, like transgender activists. Like there's just a lot of craziness spiraling off in all directions. And part of that is about the way that the economy bounced back. So the way the economy is going to bounce back from this is that it's going to be around 30 million if we stopped tomorrow. So the longer we keep going, it's going to be more and more and more. We don't know how many people are going to be out of work over this. a couple million small businesses are going to go out of business due to this. And big corporations are going to get handouts and consolidate more power and control over the economy. So I think what we're going to come out of this with is we'll still have an economy, we'll still have an America, but it's going to be the inequality is going to be very exaggerated from where it already was. And it's going to be more and more big corporate control and less thriving small and mid-sized businesses. So it's a recipe for more of this populist craziness.
Kind of funny that Bernie Sanders just dropped out, and this is kind of like his platform, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, Bernie Sanders would have had a real shot to be president. I mean, you got to think if 30 million people lose their jobs. And by the way, I keep saying that number. We don't know exactly what the number is, but it's just, we know that it's over, I think up to 14 million or something like that have applied for unemployment insurance. That's just those who are applying for unemployment insurance. That's not taking into account the people who, work under the table, work in different industries that aren't eligible for unemployment insurance. So but when this whole thing is over, there's going to be a whole lot of people who just lost their jobs now because of the stupid way our laws are structured. A lot of their health care was tied to their job. So a bunch of them have lost their health care in the middle of a pandemic, which is not the best situation. And they're going to be scared and have nothing and being out of work. And Bernie Sanders has a message for those people, which is basically you get something. Like you get health care and you get a bigger handout, and I think that would be appealing to a lot of people who are desperate. But fortunately for Western civilization, Bernie Sanders is a pussy who never had any fight in him and wasn't willing to actually try to win.
It must feel for the Bernie supporters, whatever, because I know when you're talking about Jimmy Dore, he was very passionate about, Bernie Sanders is, he shouldn't be. Like he's our man, but for some reason he just doesn't have, like you were saying, he's a pussy. He just doesn't have that oomph, factor or whatever. And then like also when he, supported Hillary Clinton, it's just like really, because we were just talking to someone just earlier today about this. I was saying, well, in 2008 when Ron Paul dropped out, he didn't endorse John McCain. He endorsed the Constitution. Well, after I guess some edging or whatever, he decided he was going to not endorse the Republican candidate. He was going to endorse some Constitution Party candidate, like someone who's like, like no chance or whatever. And then same thing in 2012. I don't think he endorsed anybody. So it's not like you have to endorse someone. I mean, if anything, Bernie Sanders probably has a really good shot of if he was a Green Party candidate, he'd probably get a really good amount of people. I don't know why he did think maybe because I don't know. For Ron Paul, he decided that Republican is just because his name's going to be out there and Republicans has a bigger platform. But Bernie Sanders has a huge fan base that I'm sure maybe that's the reason why too, because the DNC is afraid he's going to possibly run third party, because if he did, he would get a huge amount of that, of the numbers, I guess. I don't know, because now we're stuck with Trump and Biden and, it's I don't know, a confused old man versus a drunk uncle guy who, cusses every 2 seconds or whatever. So I don't know. It's going to be funny. I don't know.
It will be entertaining. No, but Bernie Sanders has a tremendous amount of power right now. I mean, Bernie Sanders could, as you said, if he ran third party, he guarantees Trump the presidency. He guarantees the death of the Democrats if he runs. So he has a lot of power. And he could also just not endorse, or he could endorse somebody else, or a third party candidate or something like this. But the truth is that if Bernie Sanders really believed what he says, then he couldn't endorse Joe Biden. And same with Tulsi Gabbard. If she really believed everything she said, she couldn't endorse Joe Biden. I mean, and that was Ron Paul. If Ron Paul believes what Ron Paul believes, how could he endorse John McCain?
Right.
I mean, it just wouldn't make any sense. And that's why Ron Paul didn't. And that's kind of an indication that he actually believes what he says. And I've been saying this for, you guys, I'm sure know, I've been saying this for over a year now, that Bernie Sanders supporters are going to be disappointed with this thing, because it's going to end with Bernie Sanders endorsing some establishment Democrat. I mean, for a little while there, I thought he might win the nomination. But once that shot was over, Bernie, I mean, this is just, he's whatever it is. Maybe he's just a con man and he really just wants to write a book and make his money, or, I don't know, or he's just a really weak person. But either way, it's got to be something. If you're a supporter, to hear him say we need a political revolution in this country and the system we have is evil, and is, you know, is designed to support billionaires, and the billionaires are contributing to Joe Biden's campaign, so he's going to govern for them, but also I support him. I don't know how you can, you know, make sense of any of that.
Yeah, with like Tulsi Gabbard, I mean, she fought in Iraq, right? I'm pretty sure she fought in Iraq, and then yeah, support, or at the very least, you know, saying I'm going to do everything in my power to get Joe Biden elected or whatever. It's like, this guy is the reason why you fought in Iraq in the first place, because he was, you know, advocating for that war and all that stuff. So it's just like, it's like if Ron Paul did actually endorse John McCain, how many of those people who are libertarian now because of Ron Paul would be like, you know what? Screw that libertarianism, because I thought you were a decent guy and believed in what you were believing in, but no, you decided to endorse John McCain, you know, the Maverick.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm done with libertarianism. I'm just going to do what I was doing, you know, before I was advocating for you.
I wonder what would have happened to me if he had done that. I really don't know, but it certainly would have made me question everything I believed about Ron Paul, the person. Whether I would have rejected the philosophy or not, I'm really not sure. But and it was early enough in for me, and he was the guy who brought me in, that it's possible that I would have. And yeah, for Tulsi Gabbard, I mean, to say that, you know, she was in a medical unit in Iraq, but that's some real deal shit. I mean, she was like in real danger, and she was seeing every single day the true price of the war in Iraq. I mean, you want to see the price of war, go be in a medical unit in the middle of you know, combat. That's a real that's some real shit you're going to see there. But it's not just that she was against the war in Iraq and supported Joe Biden, who voted for the war in Iraq. She's also opposed all of these regime change wars. That was the centerpiece of her campaign, was that all these regime change wars are you know, horrible, and that the cost in human lives is just is something that we can't accept. And Joe Biden and the Obama administration, it's not just that Biden was a big supporter of the war in Iraq. It's what they ended up doing in Libya, in Yemen, in Syria, all of this stuff. He is, like, right now the poster child for everything she's supposed to be against. And even her great moment against Kamala Harris, when she called her out for locking people up for marijuana. I mean, Joe Biden was the co-sponsor of the 94 crime bill. So I just don't, you know, how you can, again, how is it possible that you can balance both of those things and make sense out of them? I don't see it.
I mean, maybe, and I don't know if you've seen too, or maybe you've been thinking about that, but there's some people saying, like, rumors that, like, hey, if you say stuff about Biden, maybe we'll give you a position in the, if you know, if he wins, whatever. But it's just like, why are you gonna, like, do that? And this presumption that it's going to happen, because we don't know if he's going to become the next president. We have no idea, because, I mean, if there was anyone that could beat Trump, it was definitely Bernie Sanders, because, you know, like I've been saying, a huge fan base, all his power, whatever. But it's just like Joe Biden is like the person, like a Hillary Clinton, who's, you know, been in this game for who knows how long. He's like the establishment candidate. And that's what he's been railing against when he was in 2016, saying, oh, Hillary Clinton, you know, blah, 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 bullshit and all this stuff. And I don't know. The whole thing is just crazy. And I honestly can't believe that Donald Trump right now is president, but he could possibly be president again. And then we have 8 years of a Trump presidency. Because I was also under this assumption too, that Trump winning the first time, that could have just been it. Like, him just winning and being president for 4 years, that could have just been it. Like, that could have been the middle finger that everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people were wanting, you know, to say, well, we don't want this. We don't want a Bush. We don't want a Clinton or anything like that. We want someone outside. Whether you consider Trump an outsider is obviously another discussion. But there's the assumption that, you know, we don't have a Bush or Clinton there. That was that, right? So now with him going against Biden, who was part of the Obama administration, and, you know, obviously with being the vice president, but also being in this game for so long, it's just like the Democrats didn't learn anything. The corporate press didn't learn anything. They're still doing the exact same thing that they're doing. I mean, you could make an argument too that maybe Fox News kind of learned their lesson, but no, they didn't learn their lesson, because now they're, you know, like how CNN, MSNBC, and all the alphabet news organizations are punching Trump every chance they get. The Fox News is in the One America News Network. They're sucking his dick as much as they possibly can.
Well, but a lot of that also is like kind of a bottom up effect, like Fox News was very critical of Donald Trump when he was first running for president.
That's true.
If you remember, he had real beefs with Megyn Kelly, who was like their number one person.
Right.
And throughout the day, people were very, like they were Jeb Bush supporters, they were Marco Rubio supporters. But what happened was that their entire audience liked Trump. And that is, I mean, entire might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but Donald Trump's approval rating within Republicans is like in the high 90%. Like they loved him. And then you have these people like, at the time it was like Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity and these people where they're like, well, I don't want to say something that my entire audience is going to like, I don't want to lose my whole audience here over not liking Trump. And he took over the party. But, really, they've done him, the whole establishment has done Trump a tremendous favor, seeing as how he survived all of their attacks. I mean, he survived the Mueller investigation, the impeachment trial. He survived all of this shit. And now he can kind of look around and still feel like the outsider candidate. Even though he's the fucking sitting president of the United States of America, he can still go, but look how much the establishment hates me and look how much they love Joe Biden. They're honestly going to look you in the eyes and tell you he's not senile. Like everybody can see this. Listen, he can't put one sentence together without just cratering into himself and giving up half the time. So, Trump still has this thing, this outsider claim to run on, even though he isn't an outsider and he hasn't governed like an outsider. And yeah, it's a wet dream for the Trump campaign that Biden is the guy who they're running against. He's even politically, he's worse than Hillary Clinton. I mean, substantially worse. I mean, not, necessarily morally worse than Hillary Clinton. That's pretty tough to top. But Hillary Clinton could put a sentence together. It's not as if you got the feeling from Hillary Clinton that like, holy shit, she is not capable of doing this job. Like, I don't know what this job would do to her. Hillary Clinton was like ready to go. She was going to be the president. Joe Biden, I mean, I can you imagine him not only making it through the campaign, but serving in the most stressful job for a year? I personally can't picture it.
I don't know. Like I could, yeah. If Biden was president for a year, he'd probably drop dead or something. I mean, I don't want that to happen, but it's possible.
You're just laughing. Oh,
I know. I'm laughing about someone dying. Great. Yeah. I have a wicked sense of humor, apparently. Yeah. I don't know. This whole thing is just, I don't know. Like you were saying too, like you've been mentioning all this time, it's like a cartoon world that we live in because, I mean, I don't know. Like, how can we go from a Donald Trump to some boring ass person like a Elizabeth Warren? Like, how are we gonna do that? Like, wouldn't the next step up from Trump be like a Kanye West or something, or like I know like The Rock has been saying, not him personally, but some people saying, I think The Rock should run, or Oprah Winfrey or something. Because I saw that The Rock was talking to Gavin Newsom. I didn't see. I wish I did because I want to know what was going on there. But he was talking about with the coronavirus and how they've been reacting. I can probably guess what happened. The Rock was like, you know what, Gavin, you're correct. Everything you've been doing is great. Yeah, everything, because you don't want to like piss anyone off. He's The Rock. You don't want to make anyone mad. So
yeah, that's probably it. But it does seem like there's been no real attempt by the establishment to grapple with what's going on here. Like, how the hell did Trump win? We're almost 4 years later, and there's still no one has a real answer for that. Like, what the fuck happened here? Why were people so willing to go with this middle finger candidate? Why were they so against all of us? And so because they never grappled with that, and it was just kind of like, well, we have to get rid of him. We have to get the CIA or the FBI, the Mueller investigation, the House, whoever we need to use to get rid of him. That's what we need to do. We need to bash him and bash him and bash him till he loses. And then we'll get our guy back in there and we can go back to normal. And they're like, the only reason this happened is Russia and racism and all. And since they've never really figured it out, here they are with Joe Biden. Because it's like, that's your perfect, if you really look at America as like, well, what happened in 2016 was Russia and racism, and everything was great during the Obama years, and we just need to get back to that. This is just this crazy aberration. Then Biden's kind of your guy. But if you realize that actually what's going on here is that this whole system has been ripping people off, and they're starting to see through that on some level, that people reject the whole direction the country was going, which was basically more and more toward plurocracy more and more, like corporate control, endless wars that we never win, and changing demographics to where, like, we'll be a majority minority and then a majority Hispanic country, and we'll just be forever in debt. And it's harder and harder to afford college and healthcare and a home and all of these different things. And people were furious about this. They felt like this is America, and the ruling class has completely blown the whole thing, and they've got a point. And so, they were that furious that they were ready to elect Donald Trump. And if you look at things that way, then you're like, oh shit, Biden is not the guy that you want to go with. What you want to do is try to address and maybe even alleviate some of these very real concerns that people have. But they went the Biden route.
Yeah, well, I'm sure as a comedian, I'm sure it's great.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Oh man, can't wait.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
it's the best case scenario.
There was one kind of going on that, like, comedy or whatever. Like, how has this whole thing kind of affected that whole industry, do you think?
Well, it's like completely shut down stand up. I mean, everywhere. I mean, I had to cancel a bunch of gigs, and I think everybody has. I don't think any clubs are operating right now. And I don't think anyone would want to go to a comedy club right now. You're crammed into a room, and you're on top of people, and you're the comedian, you're like speaking into a microphone that 95 different homeless open micers have probably been spitting into this week. So who knows where that's going to go. Luckily, a lot of us comedians basically became podcasters, right. And that's still up and running. But yeah, all of stand-up has been completely shut down.
I've been seeing Ben Bailey doing these like live stream comedy stand-up shows where he'll just do stand-up for an hour into a camera, and I think he's doing it on like Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. I don't know. That was one example that I was thinking, I wonder if more like stand-up people would do that. Like, it was let me just throw off some jokes and see if any of them land or whatever. I guess it's obviously a different experience because you can't see anyone laugh and hear that laughter, because that's the whole thing, right? It's hearing them laugh. But I guess tell me if this joke works, and you say it, and then people go, yeah, that works, haha, whatever. I don't know. That probably wouldn't be the same.
So weird. That seems so weird to me. But I mean, I love Ben, and that's great. People are doing what they can do. But yeah, it's not stand-up comedy if you're not doing it to an audience. Like, that's kind of the whole thing. It's not just that you hear the crowd laughing, it's the way you talk to a room full of people rather than talk into your computer screen. It's very different.
Well, maybe if you did like something like this where you had like a Zoom party or whatever, and say, okay, I'm gonna throw off some jokes, guys. Let me know what you think.
That'd be a lot of guests.
I know, right? Just kind of do it on your own time. Hey, you mind if you take about 30 minutes? And I got some jokes I wanted to say. I was like, all right, I guess. I hear what you guys say. I'm working on my own shit though, so I don't know. Yeah, that's. I guess I should have known the answer to that, but it was just kind of interesting because the whole, like, I guess comedy is not considered essential business because everyone's all in their, confines at their own house, or whatever.
Yeah. And I guess, if you're going to deem things essential and non-essential, comedy would probably be pretty low on the list.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, laughter's is the best medicine, but not literally, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think that was meant to be literally a statement, a medical statement.
Did you see Louis C.K.'s new special that came out recently?
Yeah, I watched it with my wife the other night. I was happy for him to be back out, and I hope he made good money off of it. And it's I think that whatever you think about what Louis did, it's like I don't know how you could even argue, sincerely, that he didn't pay enough of a price for what he did. I mean, that guy got put through the ringer. And I thought it was sad what happened to him. I don't know. I mean, the whole idea that doing something that's non-criminal when you've asked for permission for it, even if it is a creepy, weird thing to do, how much does somebody have to suffer for that? And he was like a victim of circumstance where he was made the poster boy right at the absolute height of the Me Too movement. And it was like, well, that's it. We're taking this skull and we're never giving it back. And people were still furious, you know, when a year later he was just popping into comedy clubs. And now it's like a couple years later. And, you know, the guy's probably lost tens of millions of dollars, been humiliated publicly in front of his friends and family and children and all of this stuff. So I thought it was cool to see him putting another special out. And I hope he keeps doing it.
Yeah, it was nice that there was no coronavirus material. Oh, that's right. It was before the whole thing happened.
Yeah.
Because I can only imagine how much after this whole thing is over. Oh, great. More coronavirus jokes. Like I haven't had that one before.
But there's a problem with, you know, the coronavirus jokes. I mean, the thing is that it's a weird predicament for a stand-up comedian to be in. I really can't think of anything else to compare it to, because it's impossible to not address at all. You know, like how do you just talk about anything without mentioning? How you have to at least like have a line about it or something, you know? Like if the comedy clubs opened up back again next week, just not mention it? It's just like, oh, hey, I was watching TV the other day or something. Like, really? Nothing on this? But then every joke is it's like you're even if you talk about it from your experience, well, everyone's going through the same experience. So everybody, you know what I mean? Like everyone's making these jokes, everyone's had the same experience. And then it's almost impossible to not be kind of hacky if you're going to talk about it. So it's a challenge.
Well, speaking of like challenges and different experiences, we have some weird news that we want to go over with you. If you're, you know,
sure.
I don't know if you've ever gone through weird news before, but it's kind of the thing that we do. You know,
yeah, like near the end, we go through a couple of weird articles.
Yeah, and I think you'll enjoy these.
Sure.
So the first one that we have is it's kind of going back with the face mask thing and how, you know, I don't know, but so Czech nudists told to wear face masks by police, but it's totally fine that you can show, you know, everything else, but just as long as you wear a face mask, it's totally fine.
Yeah, that's not a good look for a nudist. You're always going to assume she's like a butterface if she's a nudist with a face mask on. You'd be like, why do you need to hide that? Just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, so you know, even nudists can't hide from all the laws and.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just I don't know if it makes sense, like medically, to cover. I mean, I guess because you're talking, so then the droplets come out. But it's just weird. Yeah. The concept of you being completely naked, but then also make sure you wear a mask, though, you know.
Well, other droplets probably come out too, if you know what I'm talking about.
Boy.
Can you spread corona that way? Oh my God, it's a whole new thing to be afraid of. Well, yeah, it seems if you're a nudist going out naked in the coronavirus pandemic, I don't feel like you're that concerned about it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, there was some like public health information like published. I can't remember which government it was. It was one of the state governments where they said, like, please be careful with your sexual practices. Like, because you can get it by rimming and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, we just need it. Yeah, we couldn't figure that out on our own, you know?
Right.
Because you guys need to stop being disgusting animals for 5 minutes. My God. You kiss your mother with that mouth.
Could you imagine if they had to like test that? They say, okay, we're gonna have to watch you and see how, you know, we're gonna have to measure and you know, see how everything goes. Make sure there's no corona. Like, what is the hell they use? Like infrared to see if there's any coronavirus happening, whatever like that.
To see if there's any droplets.
Right. Yeah. Because there was that one too where they were thinking that it could spread through poop and fart. Remember that? Farts
yeah.
Yeah. That was another weird news story that we covered. It was interesting.
It's listen, this is it's a plague from God. This is what they're saying. God doesn't want you to be out there having lots of random sex. It's a good time to be married.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like in terms of catching the coronavirus, this person had a really good idea. So driver caught doing 130 miles per hour claimed he was trying to avoid catching a coronavirus by just driving real fast. You won't be able to catch it then.
The coronavirus is right on my ass. I got to move.
Right. I
got to get away from this thing.
That's crazy though. How
I believe that was that one in the UK.
Yeah, ITV. Yeah, it's just funny though because it's kind of like like when the hurricane or something like that, they say if you just shoot the hurricane.
Oh yeah, they had to send out a message to
Yeah.
people in Florida. Please don't shoot the hurricane.
Right.
It's not going to work.
Yeah, that sounds like the Florida I know.
Yeah. So like the police, they posted a tweet and it said that an officer stopped a driver who was speeding on the M25 at 130 miles per hour. His reply to why he was speeding was, "I thought the faster I went, the less chance I would catch coronavirus."
Okay, that's so
Man, people are. This guy should be a stand-up comic. I think he's got some material there.
Was you got to use whatever like the thing of the day is, like obviously that guy was not trying to drive away from coronavirus, but he's just like, I don't know. I mean, that seems like the excuse to go with right now. So I give him credit for that, and try to make it all about, whatever everyone's scared about, anything to get away from the cops.
Well, speaking of cops, and people trying to get away from the cops, this person decided they're gonna go to the cops. Because we did a story too about I can't remember exactly where it was, but
a couple different police stations were jokingly putting out you can come test your meth and for coronavirus and we'll let you know, and then we can test it in the privacy of your home and just to make sure your meth doesn't have coronavirus.
Yeah, that was legit. So this person went, Iowa woman drove to police station, asked officers to test her methamphetamine for coronavirus. So, just listening to what the cops were saying, I guess, right?
And what, they arrested her?
Yeah.
Yeah. It has been, so they were charged with the unlawful possession of a controlled substance after she allegedly drove to the police department and asked police to examine a bag of meth for coronavirus. Like,
dude, I remember when I was in college, there was this kid. This is a true story, okay? There was this kid who, I guess he had like a pound of weed in his dorm, and he brought me there to show it to me. Like he was like, "Hey, here, let me look, bro. I got this huge stash of weed. Look." And I barely knew this kid, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yep, that's a lot of weed." And I left, and then someone broke into his dorm and stole it, and he thought it was me. He accused me of doing it, and I was like, "Dude, I didn't steal your fucking weed, but like, I barely know you, and you brought me to your dorm and showed me where you were keeping a pound of weed. So my guess would be I'm not the only one you did that with, and one of those people stole your weed, you fucking idiot. Like, I don't know what do you want me to tell you?" And he was real upset. And then I go back to my dorm, and I got a knock on the door from campus security, and they came in, and they were like, "So where's the weed? We know you have a pound of weed in here." And I was like, "Wait, did this kid report me for stealing his weed?" And they came in and searched my dorm, and I didn't have it. So they were like, "Okay, we got bad information." But this kid went to campus security and was like, "I really need you to help me get my pound of weed back." And he got kicked out of school. And I was like, that is got to be the most retarded thing I've ever heard of. And I thought no one else was that stupid. But he has company, and here are these other people going to the cops to help me with my meth. I can't believe you get suckered into that. Anyway, reminded me of that.
I don't know. Maybe they were on meth when they went to the police.
That's quite possible.
I mean, because I can't think of any other reason why you would think that's a good idea.
Well, it's like that one. I can't remember what it was, but if you just test your meth, whatever, it'd be fine. Maybe this person was like, "Oh, well, if it's okay here, maybe it's okay here. Here, test my meth, see if that's coronavirus." Arrested, going to jail.
Poor sucker.
Yeah. So the I guess kind of to bring it back around, I guess. Do you think like just liberty in general, because like we were saying before, safety's been winning for I don't know how long because people don't care about their civil liberties or whatever. Do you think even with this gone, do you think like liberty will ever come back in terms of just, I don't know how to word it right, but just more accepting of liberty than, because it just seems like everyone's been saying, this has just been an excuse for government to kind of just be like, well, we got to do something. So we're going to take more of your, your liberties and your freedoms and all this stuff. But do you see that ever coming back? Yeah, ever shifting back? Or do you think just authoritarianism just going to be more accepting as we go on?
Yeah, well, that is the question, right? That's the big question. What happens from all of this? And I personally, I don't think anything's predetermined. So I don't think it's like it's going to be this way or it's going to be another way. I think that human beings have free will, and what people do will determine what comes next. And so obviously, as we've seen already, there are going to be those who want to increase authoritarianism. And that, I think, will keep happening. But then it's on, you know, the people who are for liberty to do the best they can to convince more people to support it. And if enough do, then that will end up being what happens. And so I do think that there's a real opportunity for people who are fans of freedom to, coming out of this, to sell a populist libertarian message, which is more or less just that the government has screwed you over enormously. And this whole system screws you over. The Fed, the Congress, the president, the corporate press, they're all in this group. Is the George Carlin thing. They all belong to a big group, and you ain't in it, you know? And so that's, and I think that the fact that the government's put tens of millions of people out of work, they've robbed them in their most desperate, you know, hour to bail out big corporations, give handouts to the big banks. I think there's a big opportunity there. And especially if this thing doesn't end up being that deadly, which it looks like it's not going to be. So, you know, we'll see how it goes, but that's, you know, if we want to see liberty in the future, we got to convince a lot more people to believe in it. Because if nothing else, you can see a whole lot of people in this country are way too happy to give up their liberty. So we got to convince some more people to at least not be happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that, like you said, that is the age-old question. So hopefully an answer will come sooner than later, because the later could be, you know, never, or it could be, you know, people getting thrown into, what is it, like burn, or, you know, they're gonna put them in the concentration camps or some, I don't know, something that happened back in the day. But anyway, so yeah, again, want to thank you, Dave, for coming on and for, you know, talking with us a little bit. You know, we
taking
really
a break from all the smart people to talk to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys very much. It's great to talk with both of you. I'm glad you're both safe and healthy. Congratulations. I think it's the first time I've actually spoken to you since you guys got married. So congratulations on that. And stay safe.
You too.
Yep. So yeah, stay safe, everybody. And we will see you in the next one. All right.
Bye.
Bye.